challenges all led me to look for solutions, and that's how I started my journey. I learned various things actually related to energy, because somewhere I could see that there is something which is idiopathic, and as sir said, that it's not genes which decide the disease, so it's the environment. It is the whatever external, internal environment, and the bridging factor, and that's us. So what exactly is missing? So that led me to go on like Reiki, pranic healing, and all this stuff. I mean, I've been like really looking into each and every aspects, and but something was still missing. So when I was like really, you may say, I was very depressed, and I was going through some kind of dark night of the soul, and that was the time I met my present mentor and spiritual teacher, Master Delpe. I was in the US at that point of time, and I took a healing session from him first, and then I mean, amazing. Within an hour of healing, I was like really open. And he only said one thing: your soul should be a guru. That was something which really struck me. And that was the time I started like looking for my own meaning, for my purpose. Why am I here actually? So we did so much of studies, everything, and as Dr. Digambar said, like, sir, I'm listening to you for the first time. I'm really impressed the way you have said. Yeah, we can change everything. We have to learn what is there in the external environment and who we are as a person. What we are, of course, I have done this, like I'm a medical doctor, I'm so and so. We have done a lot of things, but who we are, it is very important to know who we are as a person. And that only comes when we understand those 5 levels of health that are like integral. Without, our existence is, whenever we talk about us, we should not only be concerned talking about the physical health. We have a vitality or etheric body. We have emotional aura. We have mental aura, and we also have spiritual aura or causal body. Those who are from Ayurveda, they already know about all the koshas, I think. It is there in the Eastern wisdom. If any one of us have studied Ayurveda, or those who have studied Vedas, you will find all these aspects. The thing is what we are focusing. Of course, we have to master certain things so that we are the best ones to guide others. But then we cannot neglect all other aspects, because most of the times the cause is in our energy, which is the vitality, emotions, mind, thoughts, our makeup, like whatever we are thinking, our belief system, and also our connection with our higher self or soul, whatever you call it. It's an advanced aspect of us for which has decided this incarnation we are in. So unless we have certain balance and alignment in between all these levels of health, we cannot actually enjoy total well-being. And also our interaction with our environment. And also it is decided by the family we are born in. Sometimes we are all good, but then we have problems with the family. Like maybe our mother is suffering, there is some kind of trauma, anything we have to deal with. So how do we deal with that? Sometimes we are, as Dr. Digambar again said, like we have to also earn money.
Yeah. The only thing is time is money here.
Yeah. So, sir, I was thinking of, okay, so I was thinking of giving you some experience, but if we have time later, then we can do it, sir.
That will be fine. The demonstration will be out of this one. Anybody interested should look into his Master Delpe's videos and all that, and we'll connect you, we'll put you across on that.
Yeah.
That will be great. So, any summarize?
Yeah, so when we are talking about aura, we also have to understand that we have energy centers. So you have to bridge the gap. So this science actually helps you to bridge the gap between the physical aspect, physical manifestation, and the energy. So these are the chakras, these are the auras. And these chakras are important, commonly known as energy centers. And they are actually taking care of physical as well as psychological functions. They are taking care of emotions and also our thoughts. And every chakra has different specific functions. So once you understand it, you can actually bring about the change in your character. You can change your behaviors. You can change your the way you perform. Whatever is the problem, so that can be taken care of once you understand the spiritual, or maybe you can call it energy anatomy. So, of course, there is a lot to talk, but just to summarize, it can be worked upon, and it is very easy to work upon. Actually, it's just that you need little bit of understanding, and you have to have the techniques and simple steps. But you can actually get the quantifiable results also. So, changing the subconscious mind, I would say, is very easy, because there is a bridge which can actually connect the two aspects, the manifestation and the whatever is there in the environment, that can be worked upon through working on your auras and chakras. How to do it? There are so many things, but I don't think we have that much time. And if time permits, yeah. So there are simple techniques. If time will permit, then at the end of the session, I can give you a brief experience, and that you can do it on everyday basis, and it will really help you to even it's a like 5 minutes technique, and you will get multiple benefits out of it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Pinal. We'll see that, because what happens is the other speakers also are on the line, and
Yeah,
we would like them
So,
also to
sir,
be.
I
The moment things are over, we'll have a time. Definitely, 5 minutes is. I don't think, Chandrakant, we are going to New York. We are missing a flight. We are in Hyderabad. We can always. So the next speaker is Dr. Sibia. Dr. Sibia, it's like putting a light across a big sun. I don't have that kind of thing, but he's a big brother, and he's always a pioneer, and he tries to kind of show the path, and he has every answer for everything. Please, sir.
Thank you for the good words. Uh, Thank you, Dr. Saxena, for having me here. I'm thankful to everyone. Dr. Parveen thought that I'm here to teach. Actually, I'm here to learn. And I think I've learned a lot throughout the day. And I'm really very thankful to Dr. Digambar. I'm meeting Sudha after a long time with the player and all others. And I'm a student of Dr. Digambar. I learned eco from him. I'm a student of Dr. Millie. I learned ozone from him, from her. I'm really thankful to everyone. And I'd like to apologize to Dr. Digambar for a mistake I made last time. He especially came to meet me in Goa, but I failed to manage my time properly. Sorry once again. I think this is one slide. If this is well understood, I need not go to any other slide. We have got 3 types of coronary artery disease. One is purely macrovascular. The other is purely microvascular. The third is a mix of the two. Now, if we go through the statistics, purely is only 5 to 10%. Purely macro. The micro is 30 to 50%, and this is very much underdiagnosed. It's actually much more. And macro plus micro is 15 to 25%. I'm thankful to Dr. Parveen, because it is because of him that I searched for this data and I came across this. If he had asked me about 10 days back, I wouldn't be knowing this. And then I realized that what I have been doing, probably it has got much more value than I actually realized. Once we see this, it is only 5 to 10% of patients who are going to be benefited by stent and bypass alone. That means around 90 to 95% they require something else. 30 to 50% or more because underdiagnosed. do not even require these treatments because they are microvascular and standard bypass don't have much role in that. And it is 15 to 25% who require both to look at the level of the microcirculation and the macrocirculation. When Dr. Praveen asked me how much time, I told him if I can explain this slide and this goes into the mind of all of us, I said this is enough, I need not go to the next slide. Because this is basically what I want everyone to understand, that where we have gone wrong. Because unless we look after the microcirculation, we are going to be an utter failure in treating our patients. We have got a number of non-invasive treatments, and of them, the three that I am looking after are doing is ECP, ESMR, and chelation therapy. They are all working in their own way. One is exerting pressure, the other is through shock wave, the other is detoxification. The indications of all of them are almost the same, so I'll just go through one of them. The rest is almost just a repetition of others. That is microvascular angina, patient unresponsive to medication, patients unfit for stent or bypass, patients who have a recurrence after these treatments, and patients who are no option patients, they have nothing else to do, patients who cannot afford or do not want invasive procedures for any reason. Contraindications, each of them have their own, I don't think we should go through in the detail. Mechanism, I'll only go through the mechanism short. As far as ECP is concerned, the cuffs are wrapped around the legs, the calf, thigh, and the buttocks. They inflate and deflate, timed with the ECG. They inflate from bottom up. So when they inflate, the pressure is created in the descending aorta, which is transmitted to the arch of aorta and to the ascending aorta. The aortic valve being closed at that time during diastole, this pressure is transmitted into the coronary arteries, and it has repeated pressure. It dilates the blood vessels, it stimulates the formation, opening up of dormant blood vessels, and it stimulates the formation of new blood vessels. The limitations is not a replacement of stent or bypass. I'll say that if a patient has an acute problem, acute MI, this is not the treatment. Unstable, it is not the treatment. Left main artery disease, because it doesn't have place for the collaterals to develop. Again, this is not the treatment. It is proven, the positive point, non-invasive, FDA approved, and it has a lasting effect, 3 to 5 or 7 years, and it improves the exercise tolerance. ESMR, it is like giving micro traumas. The ESMR is basically ESWT, extracorporeal shock wave therapy. It has got different roles. We are using almost all of them, right from lithotripsy, which is a very high power, till for cardiology, which is a very low power. In between, you have for the orthopedics, you have for the ED, you have all others. In this, we are giving small shock waves, which are ultrasonic, not harmful, to the myocardium. It is like if we keep slapping a person, the face becomes red. If we keep slapping further, the angiogenesis takes place, even in the face. So this is the basic principle of this. Indications are almost the same. Contraindications, main which we are interested in, the aortic regurgitation should not be there, arrhythmia should not be there, coagulopathies, malignancy, and pregnancy. In this, we are detoxifying. I think this is where the role of all the functional medicine people comes in. Because detoxification is again going to improve every part. Basically, I see the future of medicine being in two areas. One is nutrition, and the other is detoxification. If we take care of these two things properly at the right time, there should not be a disease. And If the disease is there, they are going to help in almost every disease which is there. The main contraindication is renal problems, so that should be taken care of. Limitations, there's mixed evidence. Those who feel that it is good, they are crazy about it. Those who feel it is not good, they are absolutely against it. My personal experience, I'm doing it since around 93, 94. We have had a success rate of more than 90%. When I say success rate, I will say it is a patient satisfaction rate, because we don't really have a method to do all the tests and all. The patient satisfaction rate is more than 90, 95%. There's plenty of evidence is available, but I think still more research needs to be done. One important thing is that in such a case, double-blind study is not possible. And since double-blind study is not possible, there's enough reason to whip the chelation people. Bypass is good. As a primary treatment, bypass and stent are the best. It is for focal disease, multi-vessel disease, or where they are associated with others. But limitation is again the fitness of the patient. In case of diffuse disease, it is not very good. This is a summary of what I have told. Anyone who wants, he can take a picture of this, or he can send me a message. In the end, I've got another QR, so you can note that down. Patient selection, chelation therapy for patients who are diabetics, coronary artery disease, heavy metal burden, ECP, chronic stable angina, unfit for surgery, and ESMR, diffuse disease. All of them overlap. I try and do all of them for every patient, subject to their affordability, subject to the time they have. Conclusion, non-invasive treatments, they have a role to play. They are viable, safe alternatives, and they